You're listening to Beyond Wellness Radio, bringing you the cutting edge in health, biohacking, and sports performance. Stay up to date and listen anywhere and anytime on your computer, tablet, or smartphone by subscribing on iTunes. Catch your host, Dr. Justin Marcagiani, as he answers your burning health questions as well as interviews from world-renowned guest experts. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to beyondwellnessradio.com.
Hey there, it's Dr. Justin Marcagiani. Welcome to Beyond Wellness Radio. Feel free and head over to beyondwellnessradio.com where you can access our full podcast transcriptions. While you're there, you can also sign up for our thyroid and female hormone video series. This series goes into the root cause of why your hormones are out of balance. While you're there, you can also schedule a functional medicine consult with Dr. Justin, myself, where we'll dig deeper into the root cause of your health challenges. Feel free and think of sharing this podcast with at least one person. This podcast grows by people sharing it. Sharing is caring. If you can think of one person that can benefit from this information, please feel free and share it. If you're enjoying the podcast, make sure you subscribe on iTunes. You can also click below the video or podcast where you'll see the iTunes review button and leave us a review. You can also sign up for the newsletter at beyondwellnessradio.com where you'll get updates before anyone else. Thank you so much and enjoy the show. Hey guys, it's Dr. Justin Marcagiani here. Evan Brand, how are we doing today?
Hey man, happy Monday to you. We're going to talk about heavy metals. I've been geeking out on this and I thought, why don't we cover this? Because there's a lot of myths and misconceptions about heavy metals and
Totally.
A lot of fear mongering about heavy metals. So maybe we can clear some things up today and answer some questions.
Absolutely. So we'll go over some of the major sources for our more toxic heavy metals. This would include aluminum, arsenic, cadmium, lead, mercury. Those are kind of like our big ones. And some of the major ways we can kind of help support detoxification. And, you know, we talked about the vectors. We'll talk about the detoxification. A lot of the unspoken things is actually good digestion, right? A lot of metals are removed via our hepatobiliary system, which is our liver and gallbladder dumping out into our gut as well. So we need healthy digestion, healthy gut function to be able to eliminate metals as well. So a lot of people just think, hey, let's do this fancy chelating program or this IV of this or that. But having good digestion can actually help. We eliminate a lot of our toxins out our stool better. We have healthier transit time. We have less leaky gut. So there's less of these metals get reabsorbed into our body and create, ideally less immune issues when our gut's healthier.
Yeah, one thing that we test for, we run a stool test on every new client, and one thing we look for is a marker called beta-glucuronidase, which is an enzyme that goes elevated usually in the presence of bacterial overgrowth or some other type of gut issue. And what it indicates, if it's elevated, is that the person is reabsorbing toxins. So this would include heavy metals, meaning if you buy some fancy detox tea or a detox protocol, but you have elevated beta-glucuronidase because you have a gut infection, or like Justin said, your gut's not working properly, you're recirculating all of this stuff. And if you're not pooping on a daily basis, preferably twice a day, but at least once a day, if you're not doing that, it doesn't matter how perfect your heavy metal detox protocol is. You've got to fix these big foundational pieces first before a detox will work.
100%. And then just another simple aspect is the solution to pollution is dilution. Drink enough good quality water and good healthy minerals, whether it's from sea salt or a trace mineral support supplement. That's going to be helpful as well, just to kind of keep your body, keep flushing things out.
And I sip on water all day. I mean, some people argue like you could just chug water, but I don't know. I don't think you're going to get the same benefit as just constantly sipping on it. Do you have any thoughts on it?
I mean, I think it depends. I mean, you're going to absorb it. If you're drinking a whole bunch of cold water before a meal or whatever, that cold water is going to sit in your stomach a lot longer and get heated up to your body temperature. Because if it's, dropping 50 or 60 degree water into your intestinal tract, it's really cold. That may disrupt your digestion. So it'll just sit in your stomach for a while till it gets to room temperature. So I think if it's more room temperature kind of stuff, you could probably go faster. If it's colder, you probably want to sip it more.
Yep. Let's talk about some of the sources of heavy metals. People may hear the topic of heavy metals and think that it's some like nuance that doesn't apply to them because they eat organic and they live somewhere where they think it's not an issue, but literally every single person on planet Earth has heavy metals. We're even seeing in some of the whale blubber samples taken from the Arctic that there's PCBs and dioxins and heavy metals and other chemicals, even in untouched places of the planet where mankind has never stepped foot. So let's go through some of this together.
Yeah, let's start with what I consider the more toxic heavy metals. So aluminum's one, for instance. So aluminum is actually still common in vaccinations. You'll see it on the ingredients label as aluminum hydroxide, so that's still there for sure. You're going to see it in some antiperspirants and various deodorants. Aluminum cookware, utensils, aluminum foil is very common as well. Aluminum cans as well. I mean, I still drink out of some aluminum cans just because when I go on my boat or whatever, you can't quite bring a nice glass bottle because it may break and go in the water. So it's kind of a dose dependency thing. So just do your best if you're going to drink out of aluminum cans because they are convenient. If you're drinking a sparkling mineral water, it's nice. You don't have to worry about it breaking or cracking. Just try to follow the 80-20 rule on that. We talked about deodorants. We talked about toothpaste, another big one. Toothpaste, sugar, refined sugar. You can get some aluminum in that as well. Various medications have it as well. Anything else you want to highlight there? I mean, there's a lot of different places you can get it: pesticides, medications, deodorants, ceramics. I'm just trying to think of the big ones. Aspirin.
So I've got a paper pulled up here that was from the American Journal of Epidemiology 2009, and it's called Aluminum and Silica in Drinking Water and the Risk of Alzheimer's Disease or Cognitive Decline. And it was like a 15-year study. And what they were saying is just based on doing tap water, just everyday tap water exposure, they were looking at these people in southern France, and it was almost 2,000 people that were studied. And of course, what they find is aluminum intake significantly associated with increased risk of dementia. So when we hear heavy metals, people are like, okay, yeah, I know heavy metals are bad. Why should I care? Well, you should care because this stuff is affecting your brain. Like Klinghardt, I had him on the Candida Summit. He talked about the Alzheimer's. He talked about dementia and these cognitive issues. And there's a huge link to aluminum. So this is a big deal, and it's not something that you want to ignore. So I put the link, Justin, for you in the chat box, and then we may be able to share it later on with the listeners.
Absolutely. So I think the big kind of take home for the aluminum is, number one, your vaccinations are going to be a big vector. The antiperspirants, the aluminum foil, the aluminum cookware, pesticides, chemicals, conventional type of toothpaste. Those are, I think, the big ones. Anything you wanted to highlight there?
Let's move on to cadmium because we see cadmium a lot. We know that it does come from car exhaust fumes, and there are different ways that you can measure heavy metals. So maybe we'll talk about that in a minute. But I would say car exhaust is huge, a big source. I've also looked at a couple of papers where they studied people who lived close to a highway, or get this, even more interesting, people who live close to a stop sign or a stop light.
Oh, really?
Think of the car as it's driving by. It's probably not as big of a deal, but a car using its brake pads to stop at a stoplight or stop at a stop sign, that brake dust creates more toxic off-gassing into those houses that live closer. So they literally, on the same street, studied the levels of metals in a person on the street where they just have people pass by, and then they studied the people closer to the stop sign. The people closer to the stop sign had more heavy metal exposure just from the brake pads.
And what was that study, Evan?
Let me see if I can pull it up. It was on PubMed, one of my random search days. Let me see if I can find it though.
That's crazy. Well, while you're looking for other major sources, cadmium, you can commonly get it in cigarettes and potentially marijuana, ceramics, burning coal, instant coffee. It can be found in amalgam fillings, pipes, fungicides, or pesticides. You're also going to see it in some paints. You're going to see it in some oil. You're going to see it in various smeltering or kind of like soldering of canned foods. Also, our cadmiums also, I said cigarettes, and that can also be a big effector of the prostate. I've seen some studies talking about cadmium driving inflammation in the prostate as well.
Here's one of the papers. So this one is, it's titled, this was in 2012 International Journal of Environmental Public Health, and it's titled Influence of Traffic Activity on Heavy Metal Concentrations of Roadside Farmland Soil. And basically this one was different than the city one. This one was in the country, and they were checking the soil, and they found that on certain roads that had a farm right next to the road, that they found significantly higher lead. Let me see what else here. I know lead was the big one, which is weird because maybe certain countries are still using lead in gasoline, where in the US we've mainly got rid of lead. I put that one in the chat box.
I think there is still some lead in certain types of gasoline, not like maybe the conventional one, but I think maybe in certain gasoline in jet fuel, I think there may still be lead in like various jet fuels.
Okay.
Not quite 100% sure on that. I've seen some research showing that jet fuel is a source of lead, so I have to imagine there's still got to be some in there.
Yeah, I just put another link in your Skype chat or your Google chat. People can't see it, but it's for you, and maybe you could post it in the YouTube. But it was people. This was a LA Times article about freeway pollution and how far that it travels, and what they found. This paper that they're referencing here, they found that the traffic pollution drifts more than a mile from the freeway.
Interesting. Yeah, I know right now in Austin, we have this issue with sub-Saharan African dust. So it's this weird kind of thing. You can Google it, but you have this dust from like this kind of African area that's like over Austin right now and parts of central Texas. And there's a lot of allergens in it. So people's allergies right now are really kind of in full effect because of this African dust.
You're saying this is literally coming from Africa and blowing around the planet?
Yeah, literally.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, exactly. So it's one of those things. We got to do our best to really create a healthy home environment.
Yeah. So this, sorry to interrupt you. This, it was UCLA who did this specific study in California. And what they found is that in the nighttime, the winds changed. And so it was going over a mile drift from the highway. During the daytime, they said that the drift, didn't change as much, but basically they're measuring ultrafine particles, hydrocarbons, nitric oxide, and other pollutants that come from the car exhaust. So, I mean, really, we could talk about all of the detox protocols and such, but why not talk about, you could just move. I mean, if you live right next to a highway, that's probably not a good idea. So when you mentioned cadmium or we talk about aluminum or arsenic, okay, you could stay on a detox protocol, but if you're close to the source, you're just going to keep getting reinfected, kind of like with gut bugs. Like if you're drinking contaminated water with Giardia, you could treat Giardia and you're going to end up with Giardia again.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to really depend, right? If you want to be living in the city or if you have to work in a major hub like New York City or something, that's a sacrifice you're going to have to make. You're going to have to invest more on making sure water's on board, being on more detoxification support, whether it's various binders, whether it's activated charcoal or chlorella or glutathione precursors or like kind of liver tonifying support. You may have to frequent an infrared sauna more to help your body kind of sweat some of these things out. You may have to invest in a really good air filtration device for your house or your apartment to kind of filter some of these things out. I have one by Advanced Air that I like that works really good at justinhealth.com/shop. That's good. I like it. It's really affordable. There's some more expensive ones. One called Molecule, where there's a C in molecule, there's a K, so Molecule with a K. That's a good one. It's a little more pricey though. So find a really good air filtration device that you can put in your house or in your apartment to help at least combat some of these things. Make sure water and diet's good. And you may want to look at detoxification support a little bit more frequently and then find a place where you can frequent an infrared sauna maybe once a week to help with that extra sweat.
There's major infertility issues linked to heavy metals too. So, Justin's already mentioned some symptoms. We talked about the Alzheimer's connection. There's fatigue. There's gut symptoms that can happen. There's sleep issues that can happen. But if you just go on PubMed on your own, you could just type in heavy metals fertility, and you'll find that there's miscarriages and other sorts of ovary and pituitary issues that happen from heavy metal exposure. And that some of these studies, what they do is they'll give a woman some type of a chelator. This is not going to be a natural chelator. This is going to be like your typical DMPS type stuff. And then they found that they were able to stop the women from having uterine fibroids, miscarriages, and other hormonal problems.
Because they chelated some of the metals down?
That's right.
Wow.
Yeah. This was a long time ago. This was over 20 years ago that this has come out. This was Journal of Toxicology. You just type in heavy metals fertility and people can read about it, but this is real stuff. So it's not just a trendy buzzword to work on metals. Like we all have this.
And a lot of these metals, they have a similar mechanism how they irritate or damage people, right? What are they doing? They're affecting the mitochondria. They're jamming up the mitochondria, making it harder to generate energy. So it's like taking a 5 or 4 lane highway into a 1 lane highway. They're jamming it up. Number 2, they're putting stress on your liver and on your detoxification system, right? Of course, if these compounds are flowing around the body, there's more inflammation. More inflammation can mean brain fog. It can mean more leaky gut, right? All of these various things are going to be there. And of course, these metals have an effect damaging neurological tissue, potentially brain fog, mood issue, cognitive stuff, maybe even increase autoimmune conditions, multiple sclerosis, other dementia-like symptoms. There's some connection with aluminum. There's some connection with aluminum and Alzheimer's and dementia. There's some connection with mercury and other MS, autoimmune neurological conditions. Again, the research on this, it's like you can find one study that says it can and then another study that says it can't, right? That's the problem with the research is if you're in a certain industry or you want a certain result, you can pretty much rent a PhD to adjust the sample size and to manipulate the studies in a way to find what you want. So if there's a study showing something negative and it makes sense to me how, hey, this is what they did, this is how they came up with the results, I'm always leery now. If someone else finds something different, I'm always like, ooh, because it was found once. I'm always on the side. If it was found once, it probably is something that we have to be careful of.
Yeah, that's a good point about the research. I could cherry pick things and make it look like heavy metals cause every health problem ever, but a gut infection plus a heavy metal problem, a lot of practitioners say that they go together. The heavy metals and parasites and other gut infections are sort of two peas in a pod, and that if you don't address one, you can't fix the other. And I would agree.
Like with the research stuff, for instance, let me give you an example. I saw someone put an article out on soy, how say soy isn't that big of a deal. It's not producing a significant amount of estrogen to hurt a guy or to affect, boys that are being formula fed with soy. Yet there's studies out there showing that soy can provide phytoestrogens to help women with postmenopausal symptoms. So what is it? Right? If it's providing enough estrogen to help a menopausal female with their menopausal symptoms, tell me why, or walk me through how that mechanism is not going to affect men who estrogen can really affect these feedback loops, especially young developing boys and infants and babies that are with soy formula. So once I see data on one thing, yet other research is contradicting it, my feelers are always like, I got to be careful with that.
That's smart. That's really smart. You mentioned the sauna. So sweating, I talked with Dr. William Shaw, the PhD at Great Plains Laboratory. He said it doesn't really matter in terms of detox. It doesn't matter whether you sweat via infrared sauna, whether you sweat a hot rock sauna, whether you sweat from running or riding your bicycle down the street. That sweating was the key that he's seen across the board over the last 10, 20 years to reduce levels of toxins. This is not only
exercise.
Yeah, so exercise was key, he said. So he runs basically every day. And
I have seen data, though, that has shown that the near infrared, right? I think it's the far infrared, it does penetrate deeper. So there is a deeper penetration where you're wringing out a bigger sponge, if you will.
I believe it.
Tissue.
Here's the interesting thing. The guy eats out basically every day at restaurants, and that's obviously conventional food that's sprayed with pesticides and a bunch of other things, but he didn't seem to worry about it. I was kind of let down. I'm like, man, you're kind of a guy I look up to. You created this great laboratory. He's like, I don't bring my lunch. And I said, so that means you eat out every day at conventional restaurants? And he was like, yep. I don't worry about it. I'm feeling pretty good. It's like, dude. So
yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of the 80-20 rule. So try to do your best 80% of the time, and 20% of the time you can have a little bit of latitude. Now, again, that rule kind of falls out that the more sick you are, the more symptoms you have, then we go up to 90 to 100%. But yeah, I agree. I mean, there's lots of things that are out there. So you try to do your best to have lifestyle habits or substitutes, or you find good restaurants that are going to be good options for you. True, that makes sense.
Yeah, look for grass-fed burgers and organic restaurants. I mean, just type in organic restaurant in your city or wherever you're traveling to. If you travel a lot, and I hear that from clients, oh, I travel. How do I eat healthy while traveling? How do I avoid these toxins? For one, you bring your own water or get a Berkey Sport, the little portable Berkey. You can filter out some of the heavy metals and pesticides from the tap water if you have to drink tap water.
Totally. 100%. So let's keep on rolling here. Copper is another one. I mean, copper it's an actual nutrient as well. So it's not a heavy metal, like a toxic metal per se, but you can have high amounts of it with an IUD called the Paragard is one. Copper pipes, older ones, there's some copper in some fungicides and various chemicals. Some people get too much copper in their vitamins, or they're eating a vegetarian diet that's higher in copper and they're not getting enough zinc from potential meats. That's another option. Not a huge deal with that. With copper, you can always do vitamin C to help chelate, as well as higher doses of zinc as well. Any comments on that, Evan?
Yeah, I just posted a podcast today with Anne Louise Gittleman, and she talked about how she had clients with major acne issues, and they were copper toxic, and it was because they were drinking kombucha. So supposedly kombucha is the natural properties of the tea is that it uptakes copper from the soil that the tea is grown in, which is used for the kombucha. So she got the client off kombucha completely.
What kind of kombucha did she say?
She said any and all kombucha.
But I imagine if it's organically grown, though, there's going to be a more balance in the amount of minerals in there, right?
I don't know. She acted like it was all kombucha. She said stay away from it. Don't touch it with a 10-foot straw, basically. So
well, I think there's a lot of health benefits in kombucha, and there's lots of different kinds out there. Some are really high in sugar, some are low in sugar, some are organic, some aren't. So I think
I know
how would you but maybe not as good.
I know it was a broad brushstroke, but it's like, how would you verify? I guess you'd have to test all the different brands like GTs and measure is there high copper. But anyway. Yeah. Either way, she had them come off kombucha, and then she did some zinc, and then this person's major acne problem went away. So she was talking about if you're trying to think, okay, if you can't get your doctor to test you for the copper, look for some of the symptoms, and some of the biggest ones were mainly skin. And then also like anxiety issues and fatigue issues and tinnitus, ringing of the ears, hyperactivity, sleep issues. It was all tied into being copper toxic. She called it being a copperhead. And she said she was a copperhead for many, many years.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, I have a hard time thinking that that's all because of copper. Personally, there could have easily been some SIBO there. And this person could have been just consuming too much fermentable products because of their gut bacterial overgrowth.
Yeah,
and that could have been the mechanism, right? I don't know, but I mean, just my clinical experience with thousands of patients, I don't see that being a huge deal. Changing the diet and supporting detoxification and getting more zinc in there tends to be a good way of supporting that. But we'll note it.
It sounds sexy, right? All the problems were just linked to that one little beverage. But yeah, I agree with you. There's probably more root causes, and that's the hard part too. Like when you interview these people, I mean, you could just probe them and like call them out on their stuff. But then I don't know, like, are you going to end up getting somewhere with it, or is it just going to go nowhere?
The problem is, number one, we're moving so many levers. It's not like we're having a clinical study or clinical trial where people are in a metabolic ward and we're tweaking only one variable. Yeah. So we have to really use common sense. And that's why I try to look at what are the major mechanisms when we're moving, when we make a diet change or a lifestyle change or a supplement change. And the foundational levers are simple things like sleep, water, digestion, getting rid of infections, supporting hormones, supporting inflammation reduction. And so many symptoms can change with just one of those levers. And if we isolated each lever one at a time, it would take patients years to get better. Very true. We just do our best as clinicians and doctors to use our common sense to see based on our experience what we think it was. So noted.
Yeah. We probably move, I don't know, 50 needles at a time or something.
No, so many, totally. So next,
Mercury.
Let's go to lead. Let's go. Let's do lead next.
Hit lead, but we got to hit mercury too.
Auto exhaust, but again, we talked about that being unleaded for most of the United States. Maybe some jet fuels aren't. We know perchlorates in the jet fuel. Smelting stuff, anything that's smelted, circuit boards that require a certain smelting for the wires to stick, of course. Root canals may be an issue. Glazes, hair dyes, lead pipes, potential lead paint if you're in a house before 1976 is the rule. Some pencils, some pesticides that have lead, arsenic in it, rainwaters, some of the cheaper Chinese herbs, Ayurvedic herbs from China. Some of them are grown in very high lead-based soils. Concrete, wood, building materials, vinyl siding. Anything else you want to add there, Evan?
I would add guns, shooting.
Oh, yeah. Shooting bullets, yeah.
I had a female client who, she was like a private investigator. I think she worked for the government. Anyway, she was at the shooting range every single week, and it was an indoor shooting range. She said that the airflow was not very good, and she could see the smoke, floating around her after she was shooting. And she had a lot of the lead toxicity symptoms. So, her brain was not working very well. She was depressed. She was anxious. Her blood pressure was up. Her memory was terrible. She didn't have any of the crazy lead stuff like paralysis and numbness and Parkinson's, like some of the major manifestations. She didn't have that, but her sleep was crap and her brain was crap. So we did start giving her just some gentle chlorella-based tinctures, and we did see symptoms get better. However, though, like you said, at the same time, I wasn't doing just that. I was also getting rid of the many different gut infections that she had.
Totally. And I go to the shooting range like once a quarter. Like when my wife was pregnant, like, she just didn't come with me. It was like, all right, you stay away. But typically if we go, it's like, all right, I have a little bit of activated charcoal and glutathione and antioxidants kind of before and after. Kind of clean things up. And I just choose a good range that has good air filtration, like you mentioned.
I go to an outdoor range, but then also I use copper bullets.
That's good.
They don't have it.
They're a lot more expensive though. So
they are expensive. I just don't shoot as many.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good option. So let's hit Mercury next. Anything else you wanted to highlight about lead there, Evan?
I mean, it's huge. We could spend a whole hour. We could spend a whole year on lead. It's a big deal. You got to look at all sources, especially your lead pipes. If you live in the old part of a city, look at the Flint water, crisis thing. It's bad. So yes, please.
Yeah, and that's why I just don't trust. I don't trust any government's water or any local municipalities' water. I have 2 water filtrations, a whole house, and a countertop. If you're on a budget, get a countertop. You pay if you actually are paying for bottled water right now. You'll pay for itself in 6 months. Okay.
Yeah.
You can get a good one for $200 to $300 and it ends up being less than a dime per gallon. So super good. And then you can filter it out. And people are always complaining about, oh, you filter it out, you pull all the minerals out. It's like, come on, man. I'd rather have cleaner water and add minerals back in. It's way easier to add minerals back in than to leave toxins in the water.
Yeah, I don't want toxins in my water. Let's hit mercury. You mentioned the vaccines for aluminum. Obviously, mercury, the thimerosal is I think it's 48% mercury, the thimerosal in vaccines.
Yeah, it's going to be in primarily your flu vaccine now. They pulled some out, but they replaced a lot of the ones that had thimerosal in it with the aluminum hydroxide.
Oh.
So it's only in that one. There may be one version of the DTP and one version of the MMR potentially. There was. Right now, the primary one is just the flu vaccine.
Okay, so you think mercury's pretty much out of vaccines then?
Yeah, now there is some mercury that's used in the processing of the vaccination, like not in the actual ingredients.
Okay.
And if you go look on the Johns Hopkins ingredient label for vaccine safety, there'll be a little kind of star at the bottom of that. And it will say mercury that's used in the processing is not counted if it's less than 0.005 per liter or ppm or whatever. So there is some people that say there is still some mercury. It's just not in the actual vaccine. It's used in the processing of it. And it's still at a reasonably high level. So you have to take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I would say particularly people that should pay more attention to this would be military people, where they travel to certain countries and they have to go and get 20 or 30 different vaccines to go to Afghanistan, for example. I mean, how do you mitigate that? Like you said, you've just got to do a lot of your good detox support and binders to try to mitigate the risk of vaccines if you're forced to do that for your job and you can't opt out.
Yeah, and there's some research on that. If you watch the documentary Trace Amounts, they go over some of that with the mercury. But just something to keep in mind. The big source is going to be your teeth, though. Dental amalgam fillings. They're typically referred to as silver amalgam fillings. It's kind of I would just say poor marketing, or I should say inauthentic marketing, because they're over 50% mercury.
People have to look up the documentary Our Daily Dose. It goes into the whole history of how the American Dental Association got corrupted. I think it was back in the 1800s, maybe early 1900s, and how mercury even came into the picture. Incredibly corrupt history.
What's it called again?
It's called Our Daily Dose.
Our Daily Dose. All right, cool. So we'll make sure we put links for that. I have to put that on my list.
It also, it's incredible, man. It also talks about the cremation and how anybody who lives near crematories should probably move, because when they're cremating the bodies, all of the mercury out of those dead bodies is going out of the exhaust pipe into the air from the crematory, landing in the soil and into the air of anyone living near a crematory. So we've got to find a better way to mitigate. I mean, everyone dies, and we've got millions of bodies that have mercury in them. So
I'm surprised they don't require. There's not some kind of
scrubber or something.
Some kind of scrubber to filter that out. I would think it wouldn't be that difficult to do that.
I know. It's when you watch that documentary, it will literally blow your mind, because it's ending up in the groundwater. They're doing studies of groundwater near crematories, and even the groundwater, the fish are contaminated next to. I guess we can mention fish in the ocean, but for this specific topic, I meant fish in any freshwater near crematories is a big deal.
Wow. Well, good to know. But your dental amalgam fillings will be the biggest, and of course, things like that are excellent to know about. Vaccinations with the flu for sure is going to be a big one. Some various pesticides and chemicals will still have some of these things in there. Again, we have a list we're going off of, so I can't give you specific products. And again, if you're buying things from certain countries that don't have the higher environmental regulations, like some of the places in China may have a higher level of mercury still in the paint or lead in the paint, or, so you got to be careful of where you're getting things. But again, I can give you a whole list: fertilizers, laxatives, lumbers, paints, exhaust fumes, embalming fluid. So embalming fluid makes a lot of, I shouldn't say embalming. Embalming fluid, that's like basically antifreeze, I think.
They use formaldehyde in
formaldehyde. Yeah, formaldehyde. Exactly. Chlorine bleach, sludge, sewage disposal, lightning creams, waxes, wood preservatives. I think the big thing people got to be aware of is the flu vaccine component, the heavy metals in your mouth,
and the fish, the tuna.
Burning. Yeah, some of the tuna, the higher mercury. Skipjack tuna is pretty good. It's got a very low mercury to high selenium ratio. So selenium is a natural chelator of mercury. So if you're eating fish that have mercury in it, selenium is a natural chelator, and selenium is actually a mineral precursor to glutathione. So the more selenium, the nutrients in the fish are actually detoxifying you at the same time.
What about other fish? Do you worry at all about, like, even in salmon or cod or haddock? Do you worry about the pollock, the smaller fish?
You got to look at the high mercury to low selenium fish. So the shark, the pilot whale, the swordfish, those are going to be more concerning because they have lower amounts of selenium and higher amounts of mercury. But if you look at the higher selenium and lower mercury fish, skipjack tuna, your salmon, your haddock, your cod. So, I think 3 to 4 servings a week is fine. There's been some studies showing that when women cut out their fish, right, even during pregnancy time, their kid actually, their baby drops IQ of 7 points because of the healthy fats, the DHA fats in the fish are now reduced out of their diet, which is, those fats are really important for neurological and brain formation. So I think 3 to 4 servings a week is fine. Just choose the higher selenium to mercury ratio fish. Just Google high selenium, low mercury ratio fish, and you'll get a nice little PDF with that in there, so you can at least plan appropriately.
I guess you could, if you were extra paranoid, you could do some of the chelators that we've talked about. And I hate to call them chelators. They're technically not that. Mild detoxifiers like your micronized chlorella could help if you're going to consume seafood.
Totally. By the way, an MD friend of mine used to give me so much crap because I would used to call them chelators like you just did. And he was like, "It's chelators. It's chelators." So I'm gonna pass down that knowledge to you as well.
I shouldn't even use the word because it's technically not correct. Technically because the chelator is more something that is
like a DMPS or a DMSA or an EDTA, more of a chemical bonder.
Yeah, the natural stuff is not a chelator. It's technically just a mild detoxifier. So I'll just ditch the word from my vocabulary.
No problem. I'm just giving you a little hard time there. But in general, cheap Chinese herbs, dental mercury fillings, pesticides, the mercury in your mouth we talked about. I think those are the big things. Anything you wanted to highlight there?
I don't think so. We could go on and on with some of these other metals. Car exhaust has so many different things. It pops up across the board for containing thallium as well. We talked about the aluminum. Also, tin could be your tin cans and stuff too.
Yes.
I think you could freak out and probably make yourself want to live in the bubble pretty quick if you start reading about some of this stuff. But I would just say reduce sourcing. If you can change your zip code and move somewhere that's not close to a highway, do it. And then if you can get safely and healthfully get out the amalgams with a biological dentist, if you're strong enough to do this. And Justin, maybe you give your disclaimer or your 2 cents on this, but I think you should probably be somewhat strong adrenal, detox, gut-wise, before you go into biological dentistry of removing amalgams.
Bingo. Stronger with your detoxification pathways, good nutrition, healthy gut function before you actually go into the process of removing things. I think if you want simple things, you can always do some of the binders, the chlorella, the various citrus pectins, the various activated charcoal, I think is safer, and starting at lower dose, I think is okay. But if you want to get tested, I test my patients all the time. I use the DMPS chelator for the initial test, and I do a urine challenge test because I want to look at what's in the tissue. A lot of times the hair is a natural method of pushing heavy metals out of the body. And there's been some studies of, for instance, one study with autistic children showing they had less heavy metals in their hair.
Because they can't get it out.
Because they can't get it out, because you actually have to have healthy detoxification to push it into the hair. So the question is, if your detoxification is impaired, you may not see it in the hair. And if the hair is the indicator of what your body burden is, well, it's a couple steps downstream. So there could be other steps that come above it that affect it. That's why I like the chelation challenge of the urine, because you're pulling out what's in the tissue. And again, blood, it's going to be more acute. Like if your kid's eating paint chips and you're doing a blood test, you could see that lead right in the blood. But if your kid ate paint chips like a couple months ago, the body may have taken that lead, pushed it into the tissue, into the fat, and then now when you test the blood, it may not come back, but a challenge may reveal it, because these metals can go into other tissues, and you kind of have to agitate the tissue and pull it out.
Now, are you recommending a random urine test after the provocation agent, or are you having like 24-hour collection after provocation?
Just a 2 to 3 hour collection. The half-life on some of these chemical chelators like DMPS is a three hour half-life. So any longer than that is not necessary.
Because the NDF I was telling you about that can be used as a natural provocation agent, the half-life of it is around 2 hours. So it sounds very, very, very close, but I would argue maybe superior. I'll have to find that paper and send it to you, because it's pretty mind-blowing.
Absolutely, yeah. So if you're concerned about heavy metals, look at some of the things we talked about, just the simple vectors. Number 2, get a heavy metal test that can actually provoke and get a window into what's happening tissue burden wise. Also look at your organic acids, because your organic acids can give you a window into a lot of your glutathione and sulfur amino acid and antioxidant precursors to run your phase 1, phase 2, or even phase 3 detoxification pathways. These cytochrome P450 oxidase enzyme pathways are important for detoxifying. So it's nice to see how those pathways are doing. Do all the diet and lifestyle things. Get tested. Don't get your heavy metal fillings removed right away, but you go see a good biologically trained dentist. Get your gut and your inflammation and diet better first before you get that removed. And depending on how many you have, you may want to get kind of a protocol lined up with your dentist to maybe remove 25% at a time or 50% at a time, depending on how many you have. Some people that have 20 or 25, you may not want to do more than 5 or 6 at a time. So you got to work that out with your biologically trained dentist.
Yeah, and some practitioners, some dentists have protocols they may implement with R-lipoic acid and alpha-lipoic acid and some other things. So just we always recommend people look at the, let me double check the website. It's the IAMOT.
International Association of Oral and Medical Toxicology.org.
Yeah, so I'm making sure I'm typing it in right.
IAOMT.org.
Yep, that's the one.
I think that's Dr. Jack Kennedy's site.
Yeah, but there's a whole database there, so you can look at someone.
Feel free, you guys, look at the video called The Smoking Tooth. If people think, or your dentist says, that heavy metals stay put when they're put in your mouth, watch that video and your mind will be blown. We'll try to get that link put in below so you guys don't have to hunt it down.
That video clip is in that Our Daily Dose. They show it's like it's like 2,000 times the safe amount of mercury gets released when they drill it out without any safe procedure. It should be a crime.
Insane. 100% insane. But hey, education, we start here. We vote with our dollars, make smart decisions. And if you guys are loving this podcast, give us a thumbs up, give us a share. We appreciate it. We get energized by your comments. We get energized by your feedback. And we're here to empower everyone. And if you want to take that next step and dig in deeper, for Evan's help, evanbrand.com, as well as myself, justinhealth.com. Look forward to being of service. And Evan, you have a phenomenal day. It was great chatting with you.
Sounds good. We'll talk to you all next week. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
Got a question for Dr. J? Go to beyondwellnessradio.com and click the questions button. Then tune in to hear the answer. Also, if you like the show, click below to review us on iTunes. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to beyondwellnessradio.com.